Sasha Martinengo.
Storming down the pit lane.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time. On balls.co.za.
How's it going, buddy? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How are you doing, Sasha?
I'm terrific. Thank you very, very much. Thanks for joining us.
No, thank you for the invite.
No, my pleasure. Got this interesting email, and then was a little bit intrigued because you embarked on a bit of a crazy journey.
6,085 Ks, two buddies. We're both in the IT place or IT sphere. My mate is in the infrastructure area, and I'm looking after software development. And we said, well, enough of that for now. Let's get out and go and do something different. You know, we wanted to go and see Victoria Falls, and how better to do it than get on a motorcycle and ride there.
Well, you see, this is where I could argue with you. It's much easier to just get in an aeroplane, fly over there, and do it in luxury.
Yes, but you know what? There's a good mate of mine from Joburg that said to me, summed it up pretty well. He said that you haven't experienced South Africa or Africa until you've experienced it on the back of a motorcycle. And I think the biggest thing about that is that as you're on the bike, you experience it. You smell, you feel the elements. And talking about elements,
you
46 degrees. Oh yeah, you fall and you die.
So, okay, so tell us a little bit about these elements.
Look, I think a couple of the issues we had, the heat was unbearable. We got to Gapper Road, it was about 42 degrees, and we thought that was bad enough.
Okay.
And that was about 2 days into the trip. And as we made our way toward Kasane, now Kasane is sitting on the northernmost border between the Chobe River, kind of separates that to Namibia and a bit of Zambia on one side, just depending where you're sitting. They were sitting at 46 degrees in the shade. Okay. Now, you probably know, riding motorcycles, it's not ill-advisable to not dress for the fall. There's that saying, at gat, all the gear, all the time. When you're riding in that temperature and that weather, and you've got your bike gear on, you've got gloves on, helmets, pants and jackets and boots.
Yeah.
It's a bit challenging. We eventually, when we got to Zambia, it was too much. We said, look, we're going to take a chance. From an element point of view, if we fall, we'll deal with that when it happens.
Yeah.
So that was the one issue.
No, listen, I can well imagine. I just want to go back a couple of steps. I mean, are you an avid motorcyclist? So, I mean, had you ridden motorcycles before? Have you owned motorcycles? So it wasn't as though you just sat there and said, well, let's do it on a motorbike, go and buy a motorbike and just do it. No,
look, I've been riding motorcycles for quite a while, mostly off-road bikes. And then recently I've got into this whole touring and on-road. And each time I do a trip, I push it further. So 1,500 Ks in a day, that's no longer enough. Going through South Africa is no longer enough, so we've done Victoria Falls. Now we're doing Tanzania, Kilimanjaro next year, and then the next trip will be right the way through to the north of Norway if we can get there. So that's kind of the third one. And after that, well, then I'm kind of screwed because I've done them all. Unless you go around the world like Charlie Borman and them. But
why not? I mean, that's just very, very exciting. I mean, this sort of really bit your imagination. You went up through. Let's be honest, relatively easy countries to get up to: Zambia, Zimbabwe, Victoria Falls. I mean, your next venture going up even more north could be a little bit more hair-raising.
I think indeed, especially if you look at some of the unrest and situations in some parts of Kenya and stuff like that. But apparently the guys who've made their way through to Tanzania, they say that the roads are actually pretty much all right. We expected a bit more off-road riding, and I must be honest with you, we weren't prepared for it. We probably only did about 5% off-road. The rest was fairly good tar. A couple of really bad spots between Nata and Kasane, for example. And the irony there is that the potholes were so big and so vast and so many that it was better to drive 120 and skim over the top of them than it was to go 30, which would seem like the logical choice.
Yeah, well, as we say here on Balls Visual Radio, balls to the wall, buddy.
Yes, and balls on the saddle.
That's for sure. Just Craig, I mean, what bikes did you guys go on? I mean, it's yourself and a mate of yours, Wynand, is that correct?
Yeah, Wynand Louw.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on a BMW F650 GS.
All right.
Which he kitted out with saddlebags and all sorts of stuff. So we were fairly comfortable on the ride. I went on a Suzuki V-Strom 650 as well. And there's some debate about which is the better bike for trips like that. They're not necessarily talking about his bike or my bike, but rather about the type of bike.
Okay.
If you look at everyone refers to the long way down, the long way round, and so on. And these guys use BMW 1200 GSs. A very heavy bike, doesn't work as well off-road, in the sense that you just got the weight to carry with you. But a far more comfortable ride for long in-the-saddle tar roads and so on. So yeah, those were the two bikes. Wynand managed to go off-road a lot easier with his than what I managed to do.
And that's the main thing is that you actually got there. As you say, you in IT, and you decided you wanted to do just something a little bit different. You wanted a new kind of adventure. Was this just natural because of your history on motorbikes that you sat there and said, you know what, let's travel into Africa? You didn't decide to go, let's go and do a skydive, for example.
No, I've done that.
Okay, so you didn't think of, let's go shark diving?
No, I think, look, if I take a story back a bit with Wynand, him and I met as work colleagues.
Okay.
And the very first meeting that I ever had with him, he saw my iPad, and we were talking a bit about the iPad, and then he saw the photograph on the iPad, which happened to be me on a motorcycle riding somewhere. I can't remember exactly where. And I suddenly discovered this guy's got the same interest as me, but I think a little bit more so. He wants to do a lot more, a lot harder, a lot longer. So I said to my wife, I think I found my match, a guy that will ride with me and push the boundaries. And when we started the discussion around the trip, it was 3 weeks before we left. We went for pizza.
Wow.
We literally bumped into each other outside of a client. And I said to Wynand, come, let's go to Victoria Falls. He almost choked on his pizza, and he was busy eating it. And I said, no, I'm serious, let's go. How's your leave? Can you go in 3 weeks' time? So he looked at me and he said, are you serious? I said, yes, I'm serious. 3 weeks, let's go. And that's what happened. 3 weeks later, we were on the bikes and we left.
I think that's just remarkable stuff. And I mean, also incredibly now that you're planning extra journeys and more adventures right through Africa. But there's also one thing that you have done on this trip, which I think is also pretty remarkable. And that is that you've diarized it in video form, just using smartphones.
That in itself is an interesting story, because in 2008, we shot a DVD called To the West Coast.
Okay.
And it was shot with HD cameras and available in stores and that kind of stuff. But this time around, we actually want to do a trip that's just about us. No pressure of trying to film anything. So we just took our phones. I had a Sony Bloggie as well, which is a very small kind of miniaturized video camera.
Yeah.
And it was really just for memories for me and the memories for Wynand. And we would share that with each other and leave it at that. Now, we did this trip in October last year.
Yeah.
And only released the clip 4 weeks ago. Reason being is it was just sitting there, and I was sitting 4 weeks ago and I looked at this and I said, you know what, there's actually enough here to tell a story, and anybody who watches it can actually relive in 9 minutes our adventure from the time we left Cape Town to the time we left Namibia to come back to Cape Town, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, we took the footage, did a bit of work on it, and there seems to be a hell of a lot of interest in it. We've been interviewed on radio stations. ETV have done a insert on us as well in the tech report.
Oh, brilliant.
5th of July. So yeah, a lot of interest. It's been very exciting.
Listen, that is incredible stuff. So, and I mean, just going through on the website, which we'll post up a little bit after the interview, to victoriafalls.com, which is just fantastic. I mean, as you say, it wasn't really planned, but you must have had like a storyboard in your head to actually eventually edit and put this together.
No,
not at all.
I'll tell you why. When I said it was a Sunday afternoon, and I looked at all the raw footage, and I said, we've got 3 hours and 30 minutes of, I'd say, crap, because there's a lot of stuff there that we couldn't use. Footage that we took of elephants and stuff like that nobody's going to look at. And as I was busy filtering through it, I said, no, hold on, there's enough, if you want to call it interviews. Wynand spoke, I spoke, Wynand spoke. And I thought, well, let me just put all of that together and put it onto a storyboard. And then I realized there's enough in that which became a storyboard. Then my interest changed. 2 hours into playing around, I said, hold on, now this is turning into a project. Now I'm going to turn this into actually a video that I can share with people.
Now, I mean, now you're back at work, I assume. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in my office, yes, in Cape Town.
Do you need some paint?
For?
Well, for the walls behind you there. I mean, I'm just having a look. Can we sponsor you some paint there? Anyway, okay, so you got your normal daytime job. But now you're planning your next trip, which is going to be a lot longer, for example. How are you going to... what sort of planning goes into this?
I find if you overplan stuff, you lose the spontaneity. And we like to just say, well, to cross into the 7 countries, make sure we're prepared that we've got the right visas and the right paperwork. But besides that, you kind of set a date and you leave. So what we've said with this trip, it's probably going to be a little bit different. Timing is an issue. What we found with the 2-week trip, it was actually 13 days, we came back on the 14th, is you're touring so quickly that you're not seeing as much as you could potentially see if you had a bit more time. So we said going to Tanzania, Kenya, Mount Kilimanjaro and back via a couple of stops. You can imagine doing that in 3 or 4 weeks. You're not going to really get to see a hell of a lot because you're going to get on the bike, you're going to burn your ass, and you're going to go.
Sure.
So what we've said this time is let's rather take 3 or 4 weeks to get there. And as chicken as it sounds, we'll ship the bikes back because that gives us 4 weeks to really tour. So if we get to a spot, let's say we go via Victoria Falls again, and we want to spend 2 days at Victoria Falls fishing or whatever the case is, we can do it. So that's kind of the plan this time around. It's probably a month, 3 weeks to a month. And in the process, we'll probably fly the women up, the wives, they can come and join us at Zanzibar for some relaxation and so on. So I think it'll be pretty cool.
Listen, it sounds great, and I'm glad you brought up the words spontaneity right at the beginning of that, because this first trip, as you mentioned, 3 weeks, hello Wynand, how's it go, let's go to Zimbabwe, let's go to Victoria Falls, and you just did it. Now yes, you're planning your next one, and I'm glad that you're still going with that spontaneous route. Basically you just got to get your logistics in order, make sure you got the visas, make sure you got some money for road people.
Yes, crossing into Zambia was an interesting activity, I must say.
I can well imagine. Craig, I mean, is this seems to be a bit of a hobby for you, but it's turning out into being this incredible adventure. I mean, is this? Do you foresee, as you say, Charlie Borland and Ewan McGregor did these kind of things? I mean, is this something that you might even explore as you go along?
Oh, definitely. We're actually shooting a pilot show around tourism and motorcycles around the country as well, exploring some unseen areas. So I mean, that's going to be pretty exciting as well. And we'll see where it goes. I'm in IT, it pays the bills, I enjoy what I'm doing, but the sense for adventure outweighs that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if somebody comes along and says, listen, we'll pay you to ride to Russia and back, I'll hop on it today.
Oh, what a pleasure. I want to ask, I mean, for somebody who's maybe also looking for an adventure in their life and sits there and goes, well, they've driven a motorcycle before, it sounds like this is a really, really exciting way to go and explore parts of South Africa and even going beyond into Africa as well. I mean, is it sort of doable for even a person like me who sits there and goes, well, I have very limited knowledge on a motorcycle, but I feel like doing this. Do a little bit of training and go. I mean, is it possible?
Oh, for sure. I think the thing is your only problem that you'll have is how far you're prepared to push yourself. If you're quite happy with riding 100 kilometers a day and then stop at a town and drink beer and sit on the beach, that's up to you. I might get out and do it. You don't need to plan. For the things that I enjoy the most about the trips is not planning. They're unexpected.
You see, I would most probably go the other way and ship the bikes up to Zimbabwe or to Malawi and then ride them for like 10 Ks just around the villages and then go and spend the time on the beach.
Hey, that's also an option, eh?
Craig, listen, I think it's remarkable what you're doing, and together with your mate Wynand, it sounds really, really exciting. Congrats on your achievement. We've got all your details, and we'll post up your video blog and your website as well. And let us know when you're embarking on the next one. We'd love to follow you.
Sounds excellent, and maybe using technology, if we've got some coverage, I could even talk to you live from the Victoria Falls or something. Although I must tell you, 3G is not very popular in the...
Listen, you're an IT guy. Sort it out there. You know what I mean? Come on. No excuses. No excuses, Craig. You make sure you got the satellite phones and all of that kind of stuff with you so we can chat to you.
Big ass dish on the back of my bike.
There we go. May not be very aerodynamic, but I'm sure it'll be a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, I will shield a bit of the sunlight as well.
Excellent, Craig. Great to speak to you. I really, really, really wish you well for the next one. But keep us informed. Let us know when you're going to be embarking on it, and we'd love to follow your progress.
Excellent. Thank you, Sasha. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you as well. Wow, there we go. What an interesting adventure. If you just decide to go, hey, I want to get on a bike and go and travel through Africa, I think it's terrific stuff. We'll definitely be following them.
Gearz on bulls.co.za with Sasha Martinengo.
He's kept himself out of trouble.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.